What's up, nerds? Here's my yellow vaccine deck list that I used in yesterday's Ultimate Cup. Starting off with our Tama, we are using 4 BT15 Tokamon. Your turn once per turn. When a card is added to your security stack, draw 1. This is really helpful because if you aren't running this Tama, you have a tendency to have a really low hand count just because of your Patamon and stuff. Like, you're not really drawing cards to replace things in your hand. The only matchup that this actually hurts is the Mirage matchup, which I actually think is probably your worst matchup. But you really need this Tama versus basically every other deck. Like, you don't want to hurt your other matchups just because, like, this is bad against one matchup, even if it is your worst one. On to our rookies. We are playing 4 of the fat one, 4 Patamon from BT14. Start of your main phase, search your security stack. This Digimon may digivolve into a yellow Digimon card with the vaccine trait among them without paying the cost. Then shuffle your security stack. If digivolved by this effect, you may place 1 yellow card with the vaccine trait from your hand at the bottom of your security stack. So this is really good. You promote this little guy and you just evo into something for free, and bare minimum, you're always going to net gain a memory off of it because the inheritable is your turn once per turn. When a card is added to your security stack, gain 1 memory. So once you evo, this will trigger and you'll gain a memory. Assuming you put a card on the bottom of your security stack with the rest of Patamon's effect. You can choose not to. The wording is may, so it's optional, but also your hand is private information. So, like, even if it were mandatory, it could still be optional because you could be like, I don't have a vaccine in my hand. Absolute best rookie in the deck. You want to see this in your opening hand. If you don't, you want to find it as quickly as possible. Then we are playing 2 Kudamon from BT13. On play, look at the top 3 cards, add a yellow Digimon with a vaccine trait, and 1 yellow Tamer among them to your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your deck. So this is a really good searcher. The only downside of this is Patamon is a data. So you cannot search Patamon with this, which really sucks. I'd probably play 4 of this if Patamon were a vaccine. I really wish they had a rule where this guy was treated as a vaccine, because it's kind of silly that, like, the base of the vaccine deck is literally not vaccine. I understand that, like, he is a data, like, according to, like, all the, the wiki and whatever. But if they just gave a rule where he's treated as a vaccine, that would have been very nice. Then the inheritable is when attacking once per turn, if there are 6 or fewer total cards in both players' security stacks, one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 2000 DP for the turn. Basically never comes up. You're almost always going to be killing stuff before you attack just because of the prevalence of Blast Evos in the current meta. But if you do need to randomly finish something off as you attack so they can't Blast Evo on you, it's nice. Then we are playing 2 Salamon from BT15. Start of your main phase, if there are 3 or more security cards, you may add the top card of your security stack to the hand. If there are 2 or fewer, you may place 1 yellow Digimon card with the vaccine trait from your hand at the top or bottom of your security stack. So fun fact, if you are exactly at 3 at the beginning of your main phase, you can trigger and activate both of these effects. Technically, it's all one effect, so you trigger and then activate the first part, and then you can also finish resolving the second part. So you can add a card and then tuck a card. Something to keep in mind. Some people don't know that, so just wanted to mention that. And then all turns inheritable once per turn. When a card is moved from your security stack, one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 2000 DP for the turn. So I actually almost ended up running 4 of this Salamon and none of the Kudamon just because of how broken this inheritable is. Because if you combine this inheritable with an ace card in your hand, you can almost get rid of anything level 5 or lower that your opponent is trying to swing at you with, which is really powerful. And if you combine it with a Seraphi on the field next to that stack, you can probably just kill anything, which is really powerful. But I ended up running 2 Kudamons just for consistency purposes, but Salamon was definitely like my second favorite rookie in the deck besides Patamon. Then we are running a couple of Floodgates, 2 Pillamons. All turns, players can't play Digimon by effects. This does hurt us ever so slightly because we are playing BT15 Gatomon, spoilers, but the decks that we use this against, it basically makes it to where they can't play. Like, if we didn't play against a Leviamon player, but if we ever get one of these in the trash and they like Dragomon or Waru Seedramon us, we just play this back and just laugh at them because they can't trigger their Biting Crush. So this is really good against them. This is really good against Lugamon. They have to out this guy in order to be able to play the game. Very, very good Floodgate for the decks that it is good against. It also slows down Devas, and you can just hard play this against Devas, and they can't play out their Fanglong with the option, which basically means they can't get Fanglong on the field until they out this guy. Which is really nice. And then we are playing 2 Cutemon. Opponent's turn. Your opponent can't reduce Digivolution cost. So what's really cool about this is training cards are very, very popular. Also, if you randomly play against a green player, it basically just shuts down their whole deck because they can't Digizorb. Also, against like bunnies, the Rapidmon tribal deck, their Willises don't do anything because this includes tamer effects, so they cannot reduce evo cost. Also, fun fact against bunnies, this also helps because their double typhoon or whatever that option card's called that plays Terrier and Lopmons for free. I actually got both of these out versus a bunnies player, and they had trainings, Willises, and the double typhoon on the field, and I choked them to like 1 or 2 memory, and they literally just couldn't play the game. They were forced to evo into BT8 rapid for the full cost to kill one of these guys and pass turn, and I just like dealt with their board on my turn. But yeah, these are the 2 best floodgates we have access to in yellow, so I am going to play them. They were good in the matchups where they come up. And that is it. We're just playing 12 rookies. On to our champions. We are playing 4 BT15 Gatomon, like I mentioned. Best champion in the deck by far. This card is a little silly. So start off, when an effect trashes this card from your security stack, you may play it without paying the cost. So when you trash this card off of barrier, because this has barrier, it gives inheritable barrier, or trash it off of your Angelomon effect, you just get to play it out for free, and it's just an extra body, which is kind of disgusting. A lot of times you can actually stack this in your security so you know where it's at, and so like you can trash it on command with your Angelomon. But sometimes you just are forced to trash a random card, and if you hit one of these, it feels really, really nice. There was one time where I trashed a random card because I didn't know what it was. I trashed the top card of my security after I promoted a Pillowmon, but I was forced to promote this because I needed to draw off the Toko inheritable, and I actually did trash a Gatomon randomly, but it didn't end up mattering. I still won that game just because of how bad a position that put my opponent in when I killed their stuff. Then the all turns, once per turn, when a card is removed from your security stack, gain 1 memory. So fun fact, if you evo into this out of your security from Patamon, you actually gain the memory off of this effect. It sees itself evo out of security, which is really important. It gives you 2 memory just from it and Patamon. If you have any of your tamers, you gain that much more memory. And basically you just start your turn with like 5 to 8 memory and a level 4 on the field if you promoted a Pat into this. It's really, really strong. And then like I said, the inheritable is barrier. Then we are playing one of Geo Greymon. I wanted to play this because it gives us access to slightly more removal. And also if we promote Pata and see this in security with a tamer, it puts us so unbelievably far ahead, it's ridiculous. So he does evo for 3 if we are hard evoing into him, which does kind of suck, but I'm willing to accept that on the high rolls that we have that scenario like I mentioned. So when Digivolving, search your security stack and you may play 1 red or yellow tamer without paying the cost. If you did, recover +1, then shuffle your security stack. So that's really, really strong. So what will happen is you'll evo into Pata, Pata will resolve, you'll tuck a card, this guy will trigger, play your tamer out of security, and then you'll recover and shuffle again, and then the Patamon will gain a memory, and then all of our tamers gain memory when we recover, so you'll gain an additional memory from that tamer as well because the tamer will see the recovery, which is really strong. It's basically the same concept as a Gatomon, except for this requires you to also have a tamer in security. And the extra removal, like I mentioned, is the inheritable your turn once per turn. Whenever red or yellow tamers become suspended, you may delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 3000 DP or less. So what that lets us do is all of our tamers we can suspend every time we recover. And so all of our effects typically are going to recover in order to lower our opponent's DP. So we'll lower their DP to a point where we suspend our tamer and it blows up whatever it is if we weren't able to get high enough on the DP minus to kill it. And then we are playing 3 cards that people had to ask me about most of the day. Understandable, really old card. Pitomon from BT4. It's a blocker, and then it has the old blocker added where like when attacking lose 2 memory. That was their way of air quotes balancing blocking back then. So the reason why we're playing this guy, obviously it being a blocker is cool, but the main reason we're playing this is because it's a vaccine and it evos for 1 memory. That's really good because basically the strongest part of this deck you would think is the Patamon Gatomon interactions, but it's really our level 5s. So getting up into our level 5s as quickly as possible is paramount. Like if I weren't running the 1 of Geo Gray, this would have been a 4 of. Like I actually cut the 4th Pito to play the 1 of Geo. But this card is really good. You can evo up to 1. You can choke your opponent to 1 memory. Turn 0 if you didn't open Patamon. You obviously wouldn't evo on top of your Patamon in raising. But Really good card. And then you can bluff blocker. So like if your opponent's like, oh, they have a blocker, so like that's why they're not scooping or something, if you happen to have like 0 security or something. And then they swing and you're like, no, I have an ace in my hand. I don't care about blocking. I'm just going to ace you. So yeah, really enjoyed playing this. Don't regret it. It's basically the same concept as if you emissaried into a level 4, because emissary costs 1 memory, except for you don't need an emissary in your hand. Broken. And then our last 2 champions, we are playing 2 BT8 Rapidmon. So this does Evo for 4, but because it's a vaccine, we can Evo into it for free off Patamon, which is really, really strong. We are playing 6 Tamers in this deck, so it has Armor Purge. And then when Digivolving, for each of your Tamers, suspend 1 of your opponent's Digimon, then up to 3 of your opponent's suspended Digimon get minus 5,000 DP for the turn. This is really good against anything that is a blocker, or just you need to get enough DP to clear your opponent's like wide board. You promote Pata, Evo into this for free out of security, and it's smooth sailing from there. You just get to decimate their board for free. It's super nasty. Also, you can just aggro them with Patamon, because this will Armor Purge if it dies to security, and then they have to deal with the Patamon on their turn, or you threaten a second Patamon effect out of Evoing out of security for free. We are playing trainings in this deck as well, so like you can Evo into this guy for 2 memory, which doesn't feel too bad considering how powerful the effect is. But that is it. We are just playing 10 champions. On to our ultimates. We are playing 4 Angelomon Ace from BT15. This card is really, really silly, especially when you combine it with Gatomon. So it is an ace, so you can hand counter Blast Evo into it during counter timing. On play / when Digivolving, by trashing the top or bottom card of your security stack, 1 of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 6,000 DP until the end of their turn. This persisting until the end of your opponent's turn is really, really strong. But also it just being a flat 6,000 DP is also very powerful, because 6,000, for those of you that don't remember, is the maximum that our other level 5 can ever do, but this is just flat 6,000 no matter what our security's at, which is really cool. Also, you trash top or bottom, so like resolving your Patas or TKs, you can just tuck a Gato on bottom of security and then just hard play or Evo into this, trash the Gato, play it back minus 6, and then if you're at 3 or fewer, she recovers 2, because all turns once per turn, when a card is moved from your security stack, if you have 3 or fewer security cards, recover +1, which is really cool. It keeps us from going too far down on our security from our own effects, and it makes it really hard for our opponents to kill us if we just have this on the field. Something else for those of you that may not know, this effect is mandatory. However, it cannot activate if, when a card is removed from your security, you don't have 3 or fewer. Let's say you have 4 whenever a card's removed. It'll trigger and then it'll fail to activate, but because it didn't activate successfully, it can trigger and then activate successfully later in the same turn if you do have a card removed from your security and end up at 3 or lower security. And then I did flash it briefly. We are playing 4 Magna Angemons from BT14. Hand counter Blast Evo, obviously. On play / when Digivolving, if you have 5 or fewer security cards, recover +1. Then for the turn, 1 of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 1,000 DP for each card in your security stack. So the absolute maximum you can get from this guy, unless you go above 6 from other effects, is 6,000 DP. I have minus 7 before on people. Like after you get to a point where you recover off Seraphi and stuff, you can hit higher thresholds with this. But the primary reason we're playing this is, 1, obviously it's just extra removal at our level 5 slot, which is awesome. And we're basically always threatening an ace if we ever have level 4 on the field. But there are times where you will actually get to 0 security if you're just playing Angelomon and Seraphis, and if you don't have the ability to go into a Seraphimon, it's really bad for you, because Angelomon does nothing without security. So like, there were times when I was at 0 security, I'd hard play this guy, recover 1, minus 1,000 DP, and then hard play her, trash it, recover another one, minus 6, probably kill something, and then from that point on, even if a security got removed on their turn, she'll recover again. So like, it makes it really hard for you to get killed. This deck has an unbelievable grind game, which makes a lot of sense. We have a lot of access to recovery here. But yeah, these are like basically the linchpin of the deck. They're the best cards in the deck, I would argue. But we are just playing 8 of them. On to our level 6s. We are playing 4 Seraphimon. We are playing 4 because he is the added aggression we desperately need in this deck to close games out, as well as extra removal and extra recovery that we do need. So when Digivolving, he Evos for 4, which does suck, but he's very powerful and combined with all of our other stuff. A lot of times we can maintain turn. When Digivolving, recover +1. And then all turns once per turn, when a card is added to your security stack, one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 7,000 DP, and this Digimon gains security attack +1 for the turn. This is really cool when it's all turns, because if you have this sitting on the field, and let's say you blast Evo into Angelwomon when you're at 4 or fewer security cards, you trash card off Angelwomon -6, Angelwomon will recover, and then he'll -7. So like that's 13k right there, and most megas, barring DP buffs, are gonna die to that. Or you can just pop 2 level 4, level 5 things. Also, if you check a TK out of security on your opponent's turn with this guy on the field, if you fully resolve the TK, you'll -7 on something, which I have done. And the extra security check you gain from this guy is massive. It's very easy to trigger this guy on your turn and get that check and then swing. And then we are playing 3 Venusmon. We are playing this because this is, I would say, probably the best stun card that you have access to. This card is just super insane at closing out games or just keeping you from dying, which can come up. So when Digivolving, all of your opponent's Digimon gain security attack -1 until the end of your opponent's turn. And then opponent's turn, all of your opponent's Digimon with security attack can't attack this Digimon and can't activate when attacking and when Digivolving effects. So this is really good at basically just shutting down Mirage for an entire turn. And their only removal is bouncing. So their only option, if they actually want to remove this, is to put this back in your hand. Obviously, they can just leave it on the field and just hope that you can't Venusmon them again. But we have other stun cards where if they leave Venusmon alone, we can just stun them again. Spoilers. But she's really good at just closing out games. You put your opponent to like 1 or 2 security, Evo into this to pass turn. They basically are locked out of their turn. They can't do anything. Then you just kill them on the next turn. And that is it. We are just playing 7 level 6s. On to our level 7s. We are playing 2 Shine Greymon Ruin Mode. So this guy does Evo for the full 5 on all of our megas. Not a big deal. We can training into this guy. So Evo for 3, so that'll avoid passing turn most of the time. When Digivolving /on deletion until the end of your opponent's turn, all of your opponent's Digimon get minus 5,000 DP. End of attack. Delete this Digimon and one of your opponent's Digimon and recover +1. Then if you have a tamer in play, hatch 1 egg to an empty space in your breeding area. So what happens is people will leave this on the field and just hope I can't do it again. A lot of people actually ended up bouncing this back to my hand, which is kind of silly. I'll just be like, okay, do it again. Do it again. And people realized that was a mistake. The people that did do it, I think after the fact, realized how much a mistake that was. But if they leave it on the field, you go into ruin mode, and then if they have a level 5 in the area, in the breeding area, you just swing with it and kill it, and then it's minus 10k on their field. They're stunned out of the next turn. And then if you have another Venusmon to follow it up on the following turn, you lock them out of the game for like 3 consecutive turns. It's super filthy. This is also very good at clearing wide boards. This is also good versus the Nume matchup. Most of their stuff dies to this, and then the stuff they float into will die to the second effect if you are able to maintain turn and swing with it. Also extra recovery that we need. Just all around really good card. Also, it's a vaccine, so it's searchable with all of our searching effects. Broken card, obviously wanted to play it in this deck. On to our Tamers. We are playing 4 BT15 TK Takashi. 3-cost Tamer on play. By returning the top card of your security stack to the hand, you may place 1 yellow card with a vaccine trait from your hand at the bottom of your security stack. And then your turn, when a card is added to your security stack by suspending this Tamer, gain 1 memory. So basically, the way this guy works is he's always going to be a 2-cost Tamer. And then for every one you have on the field, it cheapens it even further. And then once you start doing your plays where you're recovering, it just makes all of those plays 1 memory cheaper. Really, really good card. If you get enough of these set up, over the course of a game, you basically, like, you'll promote your Patamon, and even if you don't have a memory setter at that point, you will go to like 7 memory after promoting. And it's super insane. Like, it's really hard for your opponent to have a board that you can't answer with 7 memory. And then we are playing 2 Kari Kamiyas from BT8. This is a memory setter. And then your turn, when a card is added to your security stack, you may suspend this Tamer to gain 1 memory. I really, really wanted to fit 3 of her in here, because having her guarantee you 3 memory, if you hard play Magna Angemon and recover, that's a guaranteed maintain turn, and then you can Evo into one of your megas to pass turn. However, I just could not fit it, and TK is much better at setting up our security. I would understand if you cut one of these to play a 3rd Kari, just to guarantee setting yourself to 3, but ultimately it's not super necessary. That's really just if you're on the back foot and you're forced to deal with something they have on the field. But opening, like, seeing her is really, really good just because of the plays I mentioned. Like, you don't have to have anything set up. You just hard play one of your ultimates, keep turn and then evo into one of your megas and answer whatever they're trying to do on their turn. But that is it. We're just playing 6 Tamers. On to our options. We are playing 3 physical training. 2 cost option, main, reveal the top 2 cards of your deck, add a yellow card amongst them, put the rest on the bottom of your deck, then place it in the battle area. Main, delay, one of your Digimon may digivolve into a yellow Digimon card in your hand for its evolution cost, reducing it by 2. So this lets us evo into all of our entire deck for 2 fewer memory. Securities, place this card in the battle area. Really, really good consistency card. I could not fit a full 4 even though I wanted to, but I saw it when I needed it, and its ability to let me evo up into my level 5s and level 6s for cheaper and occasionally ruin modes really helped a lot. If my opponent checked this out of security, it was really bad for them. But yeah, did not regret playing this at 3. I saw it enough. And then we are playing 2 Wyvern's Breath from BT6, 8 cost option. Main, one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 15,000 DP for the turn. So I'm playing this for several reasons. One, I think it is straight up a mistake to not play a big removal card in your deck at least 2. Just because if your opponent puts you on the back foot and then is able to limit your memory on your turn to where you like basically have no way of answering whatever they just put on the field, you probably just lost. Like, you straight up just lost because of that turn that they just had. But if you have one of these in your hand that basically answers anything, you can actually reset it and force them to build back up into a boss monster. Also, this guy answers Fanglongmon, which the rest of the deck does not. Fanglong is 15,000 DP. This answers him cleanly. So if your Dave opponent ever gets a Fang on the field, you can't just be like, hey, not today, bud. Also, this is a awesome security bomb when your Mirage opponent is trying to pop off on you. If they check this out of security, it's going to kill basically everything that they swing with, besides if they have the one mock that managed to boost their DP, or if they have one of their inheritables that boosts their DP by like 1,000 and they're in their burst mode. But if they don't have jamming and they check a Digimon after they swing into this, they're still going to die. But yeah, I actually loved seeing this card. Like, this card won me like 3 to 5 games just by being in my deck. I had 2 different Mirage players in 2 different games check this out of security, and it was an absolute blowout. It blew up their Mirage, and I won from there. I had a Mirage opponent choke me to 1 with a Mirage on the field, and they just would have probably killed me on the following turn, but I was like, hey, here's 7 memory. Not today. Do it again. Also against an Omni Megazoo, or however you want to call that deck. This was really helpful versus all their giant dudes. Having removal versus Megazoo decks is always really good. But yeah, I actually loved playing this card. I would be tempted to actually bump it up to 3 just because of how much work it put in. But I would never cut this below 2. Like, this is much needed in this deck. But that is it for the list. I'll go over my matchups real quick for those of you that are curious. Round 1, I 2-0'd Melga. Venusmon in Ruin mode, just multiple turns in a row. They literally can't play the game. Super easy. Round 2, 2-0'd Mirage, same thing. Venusmon into Ruin mode, multiple turns in a row. They literally can't play the game. You lose, sir. Good day. Round 3, Mirage, 2-0'd. This was one of the Mirage opponents that checked Wyvern's Breath out of security. He did it game 2. That was the only time he ever had a Mirage on the field where he was swinging at my security. Out of both games, Venusmon just locked him out of the game. Round 4 versus Gabu Bond. That was actually kind of an interesting matchup. I 2-0'd him, and basically what I did was I just kept clearing all of his stuff every turn, and I actually ran him out of Digitama. And once that happened, he was literally never going to win, because I could just kill all of his rookies and stuff every single turn, and he was never going to be able to bond me or anything like that, and I could have a Venusmon on the field and ruin mode, and just it was a long match, but it was just because of how careful I was playing. Round 5, I played against Magna Armor, which basically any armor deck is a really, really good matchup for you if you don't do dumb things. So I won game 1 pretty easily. Game 2, I should have actually won very easily as well, but I super misplayed by not doing math right. I just basically threw the game because I had a Magna Angemon and an Angemon in my hand, and the ability to go into one of them and then go into Seraphi to kill his Magna X that had a Zudo underneath, and that would he'd lose 3 memory from Ace Overflow. But I did not have enough security to kill it with the Magnamon, or the Magna Angemon, I mean. And I went into Magna Angemon, not realizing it, and then even into Seraphi, and failed to kill the Magna X, and just basically wasted my entire turn and just passed turn with like no benefit besides just having a Seraphi on the field. Actually, if I had done that correctly with Angelwomon, I actually would have been able to maintain turn because of the Ace Overflow, and then go into Ruin Mode, and it would have wiped his entire board and kept him from even promoting the next turn, and I just would have won from there. Like, it would have been GG's. But instead, because I did that, I ended up losing that game. And then game 3, I opened up very, very poorly, and he got like super aggressive really quick. He had me on the back foot. This was actually streamed on Digipanda stream. The last, like, I would say like the last quarter of the game, basically once it was already to where I was like, oh, I lose this game. I ended up pulling it out of my butt. I basically forced a draw by doing everything I could do to keep him from killing me over the next couple of turns. And funny enough, I think I actually would have ended up winning the game if we weren't in time, because I actually ran him out of Digitama on his last turn in time. And once a deck like that runs out of Digitama, they can't hide in the breeding area, and I can just answer their board every single turn. I might have been able to deck him out or just kill him. It really just depended on what he had left in his deck at that point. But he had like 6 or 7 security at that point because he kept putting his Magna X's on a security. But yeah, funny enough, if we weren't in time, I actually may have ended up winning that game. But I ended up forcing a draw. Round 6, I played against Rapidmon Armor, Bunnies. Won game 1, and then I also misplayed game 2. I forgot specifically what it was, but I definitely goofed up. Oh, I got too aggressive and impatient game 2, and I had 3 different options on one turn. I had a Seraphimon on the field, and I could have, even into Ruin Mode, it would have basically cleared most of his board, or I could have hard played an Angelwomon, killed something that was threatening me, or I could have swung with Seraphi for 2 checks at 12k and hoped it lived. And if it did, then I could Ruin Mode. So my thought process was, I need to kill him eventually. So I'm just going to be aggressive here, because the odds of me checking a 12k or higher are relatively low. But sadly, the first check was a Mega Gargomon, so it immediately died. It Ace Overflowed because all my level 5s are aces. And I basically lost the game from there. Like, that was a massive tempo swing that I couldn't afford to have. Because he already had like kind of a wide board going. And then game 3, we only had about 10 minutes left, but I did manage to super aggro him very quickly while keeping his board controlled. And also having Cutemon and Pillowmon really helped versus him. Ended up winning game 3. I think we ended up going into turns, but I still won. And then round 6, played against Mirage. I won very quickly game 1. He scooped like on his like 3rd or 4th turn, I think. Game 2, he did manage to win. And then game 3, he had to wombo combo me through, I believe, 7 security in turns. And I had seen 90% of my deck, and I had not seen either of my Wyvern's Breaths, but somehow neither one of them were in security either. If he had to dodge both of them out of security. If either one had been checked in security because of his Ace Overflow, because he had Zudos underneath everything, it would have kept him from being able to lethal me, which would have been super massive. Also, I forgot, game 2, I probably would have kept him from killing me, but the turn he womboed, he bot decked basically all of my good cards out of my hand. Like, he took all my rookies, he took my Wyvern's Breath that could have answered his Mirage on the field, so I couldn't answer his stuff, even though he didn't kill me the turn like he comboed off, so that was actually pretty bad, but he ended up taking it 2-1. Round 8, I played against Omnimon Dark Masters. Game 1 took like 20 minutes. And it only took 20 minutes because I was forcing him to work for it. But I think I saw one. I'm not even sure if I actually saw it, if it was checked out of security, but I only saw one level 5 the entirety of game 1. And that's basically a lose condition for me. Like, I can't continuously answer your stuff without my level 5s to go into my level 6s. So he ended up winning game 1. But I realized that like I could just rush him down before he gets going, and like he really can't win from there. So I ended up doing that game 2, won that very quickly. And then game 3, I was doing the same thing, but we were already so close to time that we ended up going into turns. And I probably would have won if we did not go into time, just based on where we were at, like the game state once we were in turns. But there was no way he was winning in turns. But he cleared my stuff to where I couldn't lethal him on my last turn. So I ended up drawing that, unfortunately. So I ended up going 5-1-2. And coming in 45th, if I had not made a couple of misplays over the course of the day, I probably would have ended up X1, if not better. But unfortunately, the fatigue set in. The tournament took nearly 10 hours despite only being 8 rounds. Core was hosting, I believe, simultaneous tournaments. And I'm assuming they were using the same staff to run both tournaments, which hopefully they don't do again, because we were having like 20-minute intervals in between rounds, which is really, really rough. Because this tournament started at noon for me, and it did not end until like 9:40 at night, which is just insane. Like by the end of the day, I was ready to be done playing. But overall, I had a good experience. All of my opponents were really cool. Had a great time playing against all of them. But as always, that is it for the list. If you guys have any questions or anything I didn't address, feel free to leave them down in the comments. But I appreciate you guys stopping by. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content. Want to come back for more. But until next time, see ya.